Okay, are we is it gonna work? Oh yay, there it is. Do we have audio? Hello. That's not the right. Let's like reload that page. Better. Okay, do we have audio? Come on. Have we got audio? Have we got audio? We have audio. Yay. Okay. There we go. So we're here. A crazy day. I got called it for the first time. Hi, MS. Happy day. Thanks for coming. I got called it today. What a crazy fucking scene. Um, I had. Yeah, well. Yeah. At least I got a fresh bag of weed. Oh no, that's okay. That's cool. This I'm gonna apologize for her. I got a fresh bag of weed. Wow, that was part of what made the day difficult because I've been rationing since Monday and ran completely out this morning. So I had to go through the whole day with nothing but a squirt of CBD oil. And I had to somehow come up with $67.50 to pay for my horn repairs and my bus pass, and then another $35 for the for bag weed. And Bookman's this is where I get it fixed. Bookman's is a big it's a big entertainment. You new and used, they're brokers. They buy and sell. And he was willing to take a guitar and a camera instead of cash. So I had $35 left to get the weed. So we're in a little better mental shape now. So this is like a long bus ride, right? Two buses, and way the fuck out east and south. Oh, I bought it at eBay for like $25. I bet I could find one cheaper. I knew, brand new for $25 with a case. With her sinuses and postnasal drip today that I have all the time. She wasn't real pleased. I've been having a problem. I have a feeling the dust count is up. Been a little windy. That's the big news right now. Anybody in my audience from California, where they're blacking things out? There's some guy. I got hit too because there was a one of these conspiracy guy videos about it. He's thinking it's false flag. That's a fun. Everything's false flag now. What the reality of it is turned out to be is that, and they started doing it today, I guess. All over north central, from where all the fires were. The lines, the power lines, are too close to to dry brush, is what it is, and they need to get in there and clear the power lines so that they don't spark fires. And it's hazardous to do it with the power on. So they're like, and so they have here's somebody describing what's going on. They're turning off power to trim very neglected tree lines that should have been maintained, and they're trying to catch up not much neglect. To do this during the day would put us at risk if they left power on. So it is being done at night and done in lapses, we're told, as they do areas. Don't be so quick to fearmonger. The Paradise Fire was horrific and PGE got sued. There are all sorts of workers out here cutting down trees now. I will keep you posted. The fire hazards are very real due to the years of drought killing many trees and then the rain that created such undergrowth. Controlled burns have even been taking place. They're so far behind the eight ball on this. I ride the trails on horseback. We're at Tinderbox, El Dorado County. Placer, this northern California region has a lot of money. Incentive to be proactive. So basically what they've got is huge fire hazards around all the power lines, and that's what caused the big fire up there last year, the Paradise Fire. And they're cleaning it out. But that's also puts a lot of people at risk. They're going to have to do things. There's people that have life support systems of various degrees of necessity. Version of the computer. And then there's food, things like that. Here's an article about how to survive PGE's planned power shutoff. Here's some tips to get ready for possibly widespread outages. Oh, and see what's happening now. It wasn't in she said. It was in something else I read. What's happening? The reason they're doing it right now is because there's high winds. Like there's 70-mile-an-hour winds for the next few days. That is what causes the fires. Yeah, it's low humidity, warm temperatures, and gusty winds. Fire dangers may prompt the utility to shut down power in high threat areas starting early Wednesday morning. And they did that this morning. This is shaping up to be one of them. And it's totally, they're getting in there to clear those lines. They say you should have a plan in place. Have a disaster preparedness kit ready to go because this power outage could last for days. Get enough water and food for all family members because you won't be able to cook or use electricity. Charge your mobile phone batteries in advance. If you have an electric car, charge it. If you have a regular car, have at least a half a tank of gas in it because without power, gas stations won't be able to pump gas. And know how to manually open your garage door. Shaw says that people with medical conditions whose treatment depends on a secure power supply should speak with their medical advisors now to be ready. That could mean simply having an ice chest full ready to go in case you have medicines that need to be in the refrigerator. Some people have breathing machines or scooters or equipment for home oxygen and dialysis, says Shaw. Those folks should really talk to their medical professionals and figure out now what they'll have to do or where they'll have to temporarily move if they have to go a few days without electricity. Pay attention to social media. Follow PGE, the Weather Service, and local authorities such as your town's police and fire department on Twitter and Facebook for the latest updates. Get to know your friends at PG&E. Go here, and there's a link to it. Here, I'll give you guys that as long as I'm reading it. And there's links in here in case there's any Californians. Yeah, it's pretty hairball. But they're being proactive is what it is. Oh, shit, that's too big a link. Shit, it's too big a link. Fuck it. I got to get it out of there before I can put anything in there. Okay. Hello. Where'd that go? Oh, there it is. And where's the Discord server? Do I have a Discord? Yes, we have Discord open. Wanna paste that there and get this here. And Jenny there. We may get Jenny on. Jenny's kind of live in my email right now. We may get Jenny Kastner tonight to come out and have a talk with us. What the fuck? Where was that? Oh, here we go. Okay. Man, pay attention here. Not many people yet. I think the trolls might be finally getting bored with me. You know, I called ugly tranny today in my email, and then I got called it. Oh, I never told you about the bus thing. So I'm going out on the way home. I get on the number 11 bus, and it stopped, and some woman got on and immediately passed out in the middle of the aisle. So that's like 20, 25 minutes. And an EMT, they call EMT immediately. We're sitting there 20, 25 minutes. And the driver let us get off, you know, to stretch our legs and smoke cigarettes and shit. And there was this like skinny old black guy that was just sitting there. And I was staring off into space. I wasn't looking at anything in particular. And he thought I was staring at him. And he got really ugly, real fast. And me, without any weed, I got ugly back at him. And before it was over, you know, the bus driver, you know, I had to, like, the bus driver's misgendering me because, you know, the bus driver got in between us, shut it down. And he's still going off, and she's calling me he, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I need you not to be calling me him. And then when, you know, I made it clear that I'm not male, then the black guy is like, it doesn't even know what it is kind of attitude. I still have to give thanks that this is Tucson, and that hardly ever happens here to people. When I know people that have to deal with that every fucking day. The Team Trujillo is at the with some big conference, trans equality conference, I think HRC, has been getting called out for being putting the trans folk in the back seat. Jenny's headed for bed. Jenny's going on sleepy. She's going Betty bye. She's like pushing 80 at this point. I'm not sure how old she is. But she's a she's a trooper. She's a trooper. She'll post pictures pretty regularly of her at demonstrations. So anyway, back to the wildfires. There's all kinds of groovy shit. You know, Robert Wright. I don't usually pay much attention to Robert Wright, but he wrote a pretty right on editorial this week that I want to read. Because this is where it's at. You know, I've been sitting here watching this polarization for 55 years or so. 56 years coming up in November. And he's right. He's totally right on with this one. Basically, if you need your electricity to live on, you need to get with your doctor, your providers, and figure out what you're going to do without it. This is why, you know, how there's no reason why these houses can't have a number of green, small, you know, wind, hydro. You know, if you got moving water on your property, you got electricity pool. You know, if you can't turn that creek into enough power to run anything in your house that's, you know, that you can step down to lower voltage, which is just about everything that you need to run in your house, can run on like 24 volts if you need to, you know, if it's set up right. There's no you know, this is you know, the grid. This is like alien shit. This is not what this planet wants people to be doing. This is not the way. This is not right for us. You know, I walk around downtown. I was walking around over here, and they're putting up a 5G tower right around the corner from me. And I hear white noise all the time when I'm out near the stuff. And if I get right up on it, it hurts. Get up on a big one and there's big signs on it that says beware the radiation. Yeah, so I don't need to be reading all of that. But I would like to read a few things here. Here's a nice one. Trump is not well. It's in the Atlantic by Peter Weiner. He's a senior fellow at the EPPC, whatever the fuck that is. Let's find out what the EPPC is. Ethics and Public Policy Center. Oh, Lord. Oh, boy. Holy shit. Woo. I never heard of these guys. Holy crap. Here's imperialism. As founded on our bicentennial year in 1976, the Ethics and Public Policy Center is Washington, D.C.'s premium institute dedicated to applying the Judeo-Christian moral tradition to critical issues of public policy. Is this where the family research, you know, I mean, like, oh boy. Paul Ryan's giving them the big ass pat there. Wonderful resource for creative and savvy policy proposals that are faithful to America's founding principles. I regularly draw on the board ranging. Uh-oh, that's my phone. Hello.
Hey, Tommy, full moon drum, Saturday at my place, if you'd like to come.
I talked to Michael Haynes, and hopefully I'll be able to get there. How close can I get with a bus?
You can come down, park the bus right on the dirt road in front of the house. That's no problem.
There's a public transport to you?
Oh, the fucking bus. You're talking about city bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, there's a bus drop off at, what is that? That's at Bilby and Camino de la Tierra.
Let me get some data from you so I can get it into my phone. And
well, let me just give you direction. So yeah,
hold on, let me get some. Yeah.
Because we missed your saxophone, dude. We really missed it.
I prefer not to be called dude, please.
So don't fuck around unless you're gonna play your saxophone really good, okay?
Then you gotta call me something other than dude.
I will.
Thanks.
How are you?
I've been worse.
Good. Well, I'm glad you're doing all right.
I'm not. I'm barely hanging in there, but I'm hanging in there. And I have a lot of, I just got the horn out of the shop today.
Oh, awesome. So it's all tuned nice for you?
I'm still having some trouble with the top stack, but she's pretty sweet and the action's hot.
Good. All right. So you ready?
Yeah.
So it's I-10 to I-19.
No, on the bus from the Laos Center.
Oh, okay. So you're on Irvington and 6th there. So I don't know how the bus goes, but I'm going to give you the roads that I would take if I were driving, and the bus probably goes that way.
What's the bus number that comes out that way? Do you know?
Dude, what am I, a fucking cabbie? What do I know about bus numbers?
I don't know.
I never rode a bus. Just listen.
I'm listening.
Why tell you to ride?
Okay.
Okay, you come west on Irvington.
All right.
You turn south on Mission.
Uh-huh.
You make a right on Drexel.
Uh-huh.
Make a right on Drexel, a left on Cardinal.
Uh-huh.
And then 4 streets before you get to Valencia, you're going to see Bilby, B-I-L-B-Y.
4 streets before Valencia?
Yep. Bilby, B-I-L-B-Y. Make a right, going west. Now, that's all you really need to know, because you're on the right street. You stay on that street. You're going to come all the way to the end of Bilby. You're going to come up on a mountain. The pavement ends. It's a dirt road. You come down the road 100 yards on the dirt, and that's my place. Right at the bottom of the valley, 100 yards down the dirt road.
Okay, so now where's the nearest bus stop?
Down at Bilby and Camino de la Tierra is where the bus drops people off if they want to be closest to here.
Bilby and
Camino de la Tierra.
Got it. And so how far is that from?
It's about a quarter mile down the road.
Oh, that ain't shit.
No, you can hitchhike. I'm going to pick you up.
Hitchhike? I walk a quarter mile regularly.
Yeah, that ain't nothing.
That's nothing. I walked more than a quarter mile. I mean, that's nothing. No, if it was 2 mile schlep, I'd say, I'd call and hope there was somebody to come and get me. Oh, and you know what? What's the time on it again?
You should get there 5:36.
Oh, I thought I saw something posted that was talking about in the afternoon.
Yeah, somebody fucked up. I got a fix-up going on that right now.
Okay, so that's not that terrible that's not, because you're conflicting with Tucson Meet Yourself.
Yeah, whatever. We're going on at 5:36 like we always do.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I'll try to get there.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Hope to see you tomorrow. Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
Happy day.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, they're gonna This guy leads a drum circle. You heard what he thinks of my horn. Let's see what I got. I've been feeling like I'm getting redundant, and I just keep playing all the same shit that brings some money to the case. And there's just so much. I never know what I'm going to play until I pick it up and start playing it. I was trying to mess with tritones a little bit. That's good. That's better. I get it. That's chromatic down to the bottom B is probably the most difficult phrase on the horn. Chromatic up to the hi hat, that too. It's almost you gotta it's 3 different fingerings on the. There it is. I can actually play that, but not off the top of my head. I should go get it because that's a wonderful tune. I love that tune. I play better standing up anyway. Because you have to breathe from your groin and bent over. Sitting it doesn't. Air isn't quite the same. Don't want my pants falling down. And I'm sure they'll make a gift from Matt. And $6. Why anybody would even examine the videos the way they do to get the shit out of them that they get out of them to use to ridicule me is just incredible. But they can't handle this. They're so. Let's see, is Millet Nautis still around? Let's see if I can get this out for you. I don't know. Oh shit, that's not working at all now. Oh, that's a little sticky too, huh? This is why I don't want to do it. having trouble with the top stack. I'm not getting up to the top. I'm gonna need to break it in a little bit. Or take it back to him. If I can't get the top out. Boy, it just doesn't want to play at all like that. I wonder why it would do that. It won't let me start at the top. It'll go up to it. Horn needs the kind of blowing that I don't like to do in front of people because it's not really musical. It's like mechanical of getting the thing to work right. Let's see if I can get wave out, because that was wanting to come play. And that was one I was actually working on enough to make. I'll probably fuck it up because it's like a really difficult key. It's got like 5 sharps, 4 sharps. This is one of my favorite composers, Antonio Carlos Jobim. Definitely my favorite of any of the South American music. Don't that fuck it up. I think I need to take a break after that. Why? I was going to try and play Baker Street for you. Let's see if I can get. I can't get up to the top on the way it needs to get up there. See, it won't do it. Let's see if I can just get that first rip out. Goes up to the high D. Almost. That is D, isn't it? No. No, that's too fucking high for this thing. Oh, I know why, because that's for the alto. Wrong, it's just, I have to transpose this. No wonder that's all fucked up. That's an E flat, and I need a B flat. Oh well, sorry. Let's see if let's see if I can get take 5 out of here. I used to be able to play take 5 cold out of the case without anything running. Make sure this is the B flat book. Oh, it must be. That wouldn't have worked if it was E flat. Make sure everything's blowing clear. I don't know, my head's just not working right for this tonight for some reason. I haven't played it in too long. And I'm just not in the right headspace for that shit. No way. No, but if I was gonna be serious about it, I'd pick out a set and I'd like brush it up and get it really polished. But I haven't been. I haven't been serious about anything in over 20 years. I haven't had any reason to. None. Nobody's giving me any reason to get too serious. I'm getting really tired of it. Yeah, it won't go past the high C right. Hello, milk toast. Happy day. Yeah, let's. I'm gonna have to either break it in. Breaking in. I gotta. It's not playing quite right. It won't go all the way up. But I do think I'm going to want to grab that little bit of wave that I did and use that in the CD. I really need to get on that and have that ready for the holiday season. So, hello. Now, I just don't understand how people believe themselves when they speak about me so badly. You know, I'm 65 years old and I don't look it, I don't feel it, and fuck you idiots. You know, that's where it is. You know, I've been kind of isolated for a number of reasons for way too long, but I'm my own best friend and always have been. So I had no family that treated me well. I always, you know, I had to entertain myself where I wasn't going to get entertained. So you know, you know, it's nah, I don't want to go into it. It's not important. Nothing's important. That's just fucked up. You know, I just say for the last 20 years, there's just really nothing to get too excited about, except things that are totally beyond your control, like Mad Men in the White House, shit like that. Pending climate disaster. But I did want to read this by Robert Reich. Oh, well, here's a winner. We can get into this later. So something for the wax. And I want to keep the, you know, when we get to this, I'm gonna put it out there that I'm gonna go there, and then we'll see what shows up. In the New American I have a few token right wingers in my in my feed. Now this guy's a total conspiracy whack nut. But this one's kind of like, let me see. I'm not sure what the New American. Let's see if there's an about. Well, affiliates and friends, John Birch Society, Freedom Project Media, Freedom Project Academy, American Opinion Foundation, Character First. Here's the about. The New American, about the New American. The essential news source, published twice a month in print and daily, as the essential news source for the freedom-loving American. The New American, well, we'll go into that when we come back to it. I want to read the Robert Reich thing first. What? But this is gonna get people all like. Well, this is for the weirdos in the crowd. The story is from the March 18th of this year. Drag queen who reads to kids at Houston Library is a convicted pedophile. Well, I don't know if we'd say that. I haven't researched it, but it didn't look like. Well, we'll talk about that one later. Cultural Marxism and human secularism are, I guess, the key words here. The queer agenda is being challenged. And I guess if somebody's a registered sex offender, apparently this guy, it said he assaulted an 8-year-old boy. Now, exactly what that means, it didn't say. But somebody with that on their jacket really shouldn't be like entertaining kids in the library. Yeah, he's a volunteer. We'll get back to that. We'll get back to that. I really want to concentrate on this one first. This deserves this. The other one is more like, you know, whoop-de-doo kind of shit. Ooh, Trump made a bad face today. The Kurds didn't help us in World War II, so that's why they abandoned them. They didn't help us at Normandy. They helped us. They helped us in Syria though, and they're just fucking walking away from them. But where'd that thing from Robert Reich go? Fuck. Oh, come on. I think it's about time for a new keyboard. I busted the caps lock. I hardly ever use it anyway. Okay, I don't see it. Shit. It's an editorial about how it's not between left and the right, it's between oligarchy and democracy. Shit. Where'd it go? Let's see if we can find it with this. There it is. I closed the tab it was on. Well, this is the I usually don't pay much attention to this guy because he's like, I'm not sure how to characterize him, but it's just like a little too much for me. I'm not even sure what. Ask Jenny Kastner about this guy. She'll give you an earful. America's real divide isn't left versus right. It's democracy versus oligarchy. When oligarchs fill the coffers of political candidates, they neuter democracy. And, you know, I saw a guy, a video earlier today on DTube where a guy was talking, or it could have been BitChute, I forget which. The guy was talking about how democracy is supposed to work, the ideal state where, like, if, you know, the more people agree with a principle, the more likely it is to be, or program, the more likely it would be to be made into law. But that isn't what's really happening because the oligarchs are controlling what gets made into law. So even though the common folk may be totally opposed to something, if the oligarchs want it to be law, it will be law because they're owning the candidates. And here's Reich's take on it. I keep hearing that the Democratic Party has moved left and that some Democratic candidates may be too far left. The divide there is, again, like what he's saying is democracy versus oligarchy. The divide, the ones that have gone too far left are the ones that are refusing corporate money. It's the ones that are going too far left. The ones that are running grassroots campaigns are the ones that are being accused of being too far left. Corporate Democrats are trying to go with business as usual. But in this era of unprecedented concentration of wealth and political power at the top, I can't help wondering what it means to be left. A half century ago, when America had a large and growing middle class, those on the left sought stronger social safety nets and more public investment in schools, roads, and research. Those on the right sought greater reliance on the free market. But as wealth and power have concentrated at the top and everything else, whether on the old right or the old left, has become disempowered and less secure. Safety nets have unraveled, public investments have waned, and the free market has been taken over by crony capitalism and corporate welfare cheats. Washington and state capitals are overwhelmed by money coming from the super rich, Wall Street, and big corporations. So why do we continue to hear and use the same old left and right labels? I suspect it's because the emerging oligarchy feels safer if Americans are split along the old political battle lines. That way, the Americans won't notice that they're being shafted. In reality, the biggest divide in America today runs between oligarchy and democracy. When oligarchs fill the coffers of political candidates, they neuter democracy. The oligarchs know politicians won't bite the hands that feed them. So for as long as they control the money, they can be confident that there will be no meaningful response to stagnant pay, climate change, military bloat, or the soaring costs of health insurance, pharmaceuticals, college, and housing. There will be no substantial tax increases on the wealthy. There will be no antitrust enforcement to puncture the power of giant corporations. No meaningful regulation of Wall Street's addiction to gambling with other people's money. No end to corporate subsidies. CEO pay will continue to skyrocket. Wall Street hedge fund and private equity managers will continue to make off like bandits. I noticed another story that was going today talking about how all these oligarchs, the new billionaires, have amassed $21 trillion since like 1990. That's like, whoa, how about that? Because 21 trillion is about what the Pentagon is missing since then. But don't mind me, I'm just a crazy old hippie. So long as the oligarchy divides Americans, split off people of color from working class whites, stoke racial resentments, describe human beings as illegal aliens, launch wars on crime and immigrants, stoke fears of communists and socialists, it doesn't have to worry that a majority will stop them from looting the nation. Something tells me I'm going to need to like hit him up about his position on LGBT rights. I put the bisexuals before the gays this time. They used to squabble about that. They still do. Some of them still say GLBT. and you know, the bisexual people like bits about getting erased and ignored, and the transgender people get bits about being put in the back seat. That's what this big thing in Los Angeles is about. This big meeting about trans visibility or something. I forget. I'll have to look for that. Lisette and her family went out there for this. Let's see what that's. Well, anyway, let's get back to Robert Wright. And then we'll go see what that's about. As usual, I'm all over the box because I got a nice buzz. My jaw's hurting a little bit, so I got it's like here and here when the jaw gets going. So long as the oligarchy do it, we've been there. Oh no, that's not that. So long as the oligarchy divides Americans, split up, blah 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 blah. Launch war. Yeah, okay, I stopped reading that and split. Okay, let's start again here. So long as the oligarchy divides Americans, split off people of color from working class whites, stoke racial resentment, describe human beings as illegal aliens. Oh, that's why I got distracted because he didn't mention queers. Launch wars on crimes and immigrants. Doesn't have to worry the majority will stop them from looting the nation. Divide and conquer allows the oligarchy free reign. It makes the rest of us puppets, fighting each other on a made-up stage. We're debt slaves. We're rate slaves. We're enslave ourselves to landlords and mortgages and all sorts of shit. And employers. Trump is a puppet master. He's been at it for years, long before he ran for president. He knows how to pit native-born Americans against immigrants, the working class against the poor, whites against blacks and Latinos. He's well versed in getting evangelicals and secularists steamed up about abortion, equal marriage rights, out of wedlock births, access to contraception, transgender bathrooms. He knows how to stir up fears of brown-skinned people from shitholes streaming across the border to murder and rape and stoke anger about black athletes who don't stand for the national anthem. He's a master at fueling anxieties about so-called communists, socialists, and the left taking over America. He can make the white working class believe they've been losing good jobs and wages because of a cabal of Democrats, deep state bureaucrats, and Hillary Clinton. Who's the Adam Schiff? Shifty Schiff, sleazy Schiff. I was calling them all sorts of names. From the start, Trump's deal with the oligarchy's been simple. He'll stoke tribalism so most Americans won't see CEOs getting exorbitant pay while they're slicing the pay of average workers, won't pay attention to Wall Street demanding short-term results over long-term jobs, and won't notice a boardroom culture that tolerates financial conflicts of interest, insider trading, and the outright bribery of public officials through unlimited campaign donations. The only way to overcome the oligarchy and Trump's divide and conquer strategy is for the rest of us to join together and win America back. This means creating a multiracial, multi-ethnic coalition of working class, poor, and middle-class Americans who will fight for a democracy and oppose oligarchy. White, black, and Latino, union and non-union, evangelical and secular, immigrant and native-born, all focused on ending big money in politics, stopping corporate welfare and crony capitalism, busting up monopolies, and stopping voter suppression. And what about the queers? Do we exist? Or is everybody heterosexual and cisgender in your world, man? This agenda is neither right nor left. It's bedrock for everything else America must do. I keep it simple. It's like just stop voting for anybody in either party that's getting the majority that's owned by corporations, especially corporations that are causing serious harm to the environment and society. This guy's totally fucking nuts. I got to hear what he said about the Kurds. I mean, you should see his face. This is just nuts. This is just fucking nuts. Oh well, that's that. Do we have any interest in? Sometimes there's so much difference. It's just one of them weird days. And I don't know. I don't know if I want to keep going too much tonight or not. Let's see. That's not important. Let's get back to the drag queen. So this is an issue. I'm sure that I have mixed feelings about drag and drag. No, I'm not. Being gender bent, being two-spirit, sexism. I just don't see things the same way everybody else does. And there's just too much variety in the world to be condemning anything that just doesn't float your boat, just because it doesn't float your boat. And guys in makeup and wigs and shit. Okay, what the fuck? Queers have always existed. But there seems to be a legitimate beef here in Houston. And matter of negligence on the part of the library is what it looks like in screening the volunteers to do it. These guys are taking public money for doing this. Okay. So here, a drag queen who read stories. Yeah, and this is from the New American. So, yeah. Drag queen who read stories to children at a Houston public library last year is a convicted pedophile considered to be at risk of repeating his offense. Now, this is not really responsible reporting, as we'll find out later. A fact uncovered by parents opposed to drag queen story time, not by library officials, law enforcement, or the supposed watchdog news media. According to KHOU, which was informed of the story by a group of proactive family activists calling themselves Mass Resistance, which is kind of funny too in a way, because they usually can't turn out much of a mass. when it comes down, when push comes to shove, most straight people wish that the people who hate gays would shut the fuck up already and just stop hating on people for no good reason. And that's why these people don't get much traction. A media spokesperson for the library confirmed one of the program's drag queens, Tatiana Malanina, Tatiana Bad Girl, is Alberto Garza, a 32-year-old child sex offender. In 2008, notice that was 12 years ago, or 11 years ago, he was convicted of assaulting an 8-year-old boy. Now, what that means exactly, we don't know. But the sentence was very light. It was 5 years of probation and community supervision. Texas Sex Offender Registry says Garza is at moderate risk of reoffending. That's right there is where it's, they need to is considered to be at moderate risk. People don't read past that first line usually, dude. They see the picture and they read the first line and they're all rah, rah, rah. In our review of the process and this participant, we discovered that we failed to complete a background check as required by our own guidelines. The library official said in a statement, "We deeply regret this oversight and the concern this may cause to our customers. We assure you this participant will not be involved in any future programs," saying they are taking the appropriate action to ensure the status of every participant in every program throughout our system is verified. Of course, the very fact that the library and countless other libraries across the country is hosting drag queen story time belies the officials' professed concern for their patients, as Mass Resistance points out. Any reasonable person would see that Drag Queen Story Hour is a train wreck waiting to happen. It's a program whose goal is to make children feel comfortable about LGBT behaviors. It features cross-dressing homosexual men in garish makeup and costumes who seem obsessed with reading gay-themed books to very young children. These same men lead bizarre lives as adult sex entertainers. What could possibly go wrong? Well, see, this is, drag shows aren't exactly sex. And their dance gets pretty run, but they don't usually take their clothes off. Not that I'm aware of. It's mostly like, singing and dancing kind of shit, telling raunchy stories. I wouldn't call it sex entertainment. It's not quite the same thing as pole dancing or it's more like comedy. Indeed. And I don't know. I don't want to go there. Not yet. We'll see what people are saying about this. Where'd it go? A drag queen participating in a similar program in another city bluntly stated that it's about the grooming of the next generation. Last October, Mass Resistance filed a lawsuit against librarian Mayor Sylvester Turner, alleging that Drag Queen Storytime is a violation of the First Amendment because it promotes the religion of secular humanism. It's not about acceptance, love, and tolerance, Mass Resistance, Chris Sevier said. It's really about indoctrinating children to the ideals of secular humanism. Sevier believes homosexuality is a choice, and something like Drag Queen Storytime could lead to homosexuality. Oh my goodness. Sure, it could totally indoctrinate them into it, just like if you attended a Billy Graham rally, you could be led down the path of coming to know Christ, for example. Is that white Jesus? Someone suing about white Jesus. I forget what that was. Kind of funny, but I didn't log it. A federal judge dismissed the lawsuit in January. Undaunted, Mass Resistance did its own research into the drag queen storytime participants, no thanks to the city, which denied the request for public information. Dug up 163 pages worth of what is called drag queens' lurid activities. It delivered this report to the city council and mayor, who called drag queens role models for the community. During a press conference Friday, revealing Garza's sex offender status, Mass Resistance Tracy Shannon declared, most parents would not allow that individual to sit in this library and be held up as a role model to our children. Shame on you, Mayor Turner. They're apologizing for letting them in there. Shannon also reached out to those who favor drag queen storytime, but were appalled by the revelation. We might not all agree that having adult entertainers is the right way to entertain young children or promote literacy, diversity, and acceptance and inclusion. But we can all agree that it's inappropriate to have a sex offender entertaining children at the library. I think that's pretty, I don't think you're going to get any arguments about that one. Mass Resistance isn't content with just an apology from the library, nor with the fact that drag queen storytime has been moved to, of all things, a church, while still being promoted by the library and funded by city tax dollars. They say they have another 500 pages of very graphic and repulsive material on the drag queens that they plan to deliver to city officials. With any luck, Houston's drag queen storytime will not drag on much longer. So what do we think of that? Not much chit chat out of you guys tonight. At least there's nobody like saying stupid shit. We done. Oh, that was what we got distracted into something else. Trump is not well. Here's just one thing from the EPPC, and that's the Ethics and Public Policy Center. During the 2016 campaign, I received a phone call from an influential political journalist and author who was soliciting my thoughts on Donald Trump. Trump's rise in the Republican Party was still something of a shock, and he wanted to know the things I felt he should keep in mind as he went about the task of covering Trump. At the top of my list, talk to psychologists and psychiatrists about the state of Trump's mental health, since I considered that to be the most important thing when it came to understanding him. It was Trump's Rosetta Stone. I wasn't shy about making the same case publicly. During a July 14, 2016 appearance on C-SPAN's Washington Journal, for example, I responded to a pro-Trump caller who was upset that I opposed Trump despite my having been a Republican for my entire adult life and having served in the Reagan and George H.W. Bush administrations and the George W. Bush White House. I don't oppose Mr. Trump because I think he's going to lose to Hillary Clinton. I told Ben from Purcellville, Virginia, I think he will. But as I said, he may well win. My opposition to him is based on something completely different, which is first, I think he is temperamentally unfit to be president. I think he's erratic. I think he's unprincipled. I think he's unstable. And I think he has a personality disorder. I think he's obsessive. And at the end of the day, having served in the White House for 7 years in 3 administrations and worked for 3 presidents, one closely and read a lot of history, I think the main requirement for president of the United States is temperament and disposition, whether you have wisdom and judgment and prudence. I couldn't have said it better. I've been saying pretty much that, but not so eloquently from the get-go. That's just him totally. And what he doesn't have, what he lacks as president. Temperament, disposition, wisdom, judgment, and prudence. That statement has been validated. Donald Trump's disordered personality, his unhealthy patterns of thinking, functioning, and behaving has become the defining characteristic of his presidency. It manifests itself in multiple ways. His extreme narcissism, his addiction to lying about things large and small, including his finances and bullying and silencing those who would expose him, his detachment from reality, including denying things he said even when there's video evidence to the contrary, his affinity for conspiracy theories, his demand for total loyalty from others while showing none to others, his self-aggrandizement and petty cheating. It manifests itself in Trump's impulsiveness and vindictiveness, his craving for adulation, his misogyny, predatory sexual behavior, and sexualization of his daughters, his open admiration for brutal dictators, his remorselessness, and his lack of empathy and sympathy, including attacking a family whose son died while fighting for this country, mocking a reporter with a disability, and ridiculing a former POW. When asked about Trump's feelings for his fellow human beings, Trump's mentor, the notorious lawyer Roy Cohn, reportedly said he pisses ice water. The most recent example is the Trump's president's bizarre fixation on falsely insisting this is old. This is already dated. He's already done something worse. We'll get to that because he did it today. He was correct, falsely insisting that he's correct to warn that Alabama faced a major risk from Hurricane Dorian, to the point that he doctored a hurricane map with black Sharpie to include the state in the path of being in the path of the storm. He's deteriorating in plain sight, one Republican strategist who's in frequent contact with the White House told Business Insider on Friday. Asked why the president was assessed with Alabama instead of the states that would actually be affected by the storm, the strategist said, "You should ask the psychiatrist about that. I'm not sure I'm qualified to comment." We have repeatedly heard versions of that sentiment over the course of Trump's presidency. It's said that speculating on Trump's mental health is inappropriate and unwise, especially for those who are not formally trained in the field of psychiatry or psychology. And then you got a problem with the people who are formally trained because they're restrained by the Goldwater constraint restriction, Goldwater rule, I think, I forget. Basically, they're not supposed to diagnose anybody remote. So the people that are right up with him aren't qualified, and the people that are qualified can't do it because they're not right up with him. So that's true up to a point. Yes, it is best to leave it to experts to determine whether Trump satisfies the criteria for clinical diagnosis of antisocial personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, some combination of both, or nothing at all. But if a clinical diagnosis is beyond my own expertise, Trump's psychological impairments are obvious to all who are not willfully blind. On a daily basis, we see the president's chaotic, unstable mind on display. Are we supposed to ignore that? An analogy may be helpful here. If smoke is coming out from under the hood of your car, if you notice puddles of oil under it, if the engine is overheating and you smell burning oil, you don't have to be a car mechanic to know that something is wrong with your car. Accepting the reality about Trump's disordered personality is important and even essential. For one thing, it will help us better react to Trump's freak show. Even now, almost 1,000 days into his presidency, the latest Trump outrage elicits shock and disbelief in people. The reaction is, can you believe he said that and did this? To which my response is, why are you surprised? It's a shock only if the assumption is that we're dealing with a psychologically normal human being. We're not. Trump is profoundly compromised, acting just as you would imagine a person with a disordered personality would. Many Americans haven't yet come to terms with the fact that we elected a president, a man who is deeply damaged, an emotional misfit. But it would be helpful if they did. Among other things, it would help keep us feeling less startled and disoriented, less in a state of constant agitation, less susceptible to provocations. Donald Trump thrives on creating chaos, on gaslighting us, on creating antipathy among Americans, on keeping people on edge and off balance. He wants to dominate our every waking hour. We ought not grant him that power over us. It might also take some of the edge off the hatred many people feel for Trump. Seeing him for what he is, a terribly damaged soul, a broken man, a person with a disordered mind, should not lessen our revulsion at how Trump mistreats others, at his cruelty and dehumanizing actions. Nor should it weaken our resolve to stand up to it. It does complicate the picture just a bit, though, eliciting some pity and sorrow for Trump. I still say we're living in, this is H.L. Mencken's nightmare. This is his fault. He visualized this. I'll read the quote when I'm done. But above all, accepting the truth about Trump's mental state will cause us to take more seriously than we have our democratic duty. And I hope that's a fact. I hope there's just this monstrous turnout in 2020 of people that are going to stand up to the oligarchy, because that's what Trump represents. Fascism, finally taking full control. Since 1963, this has been building since 1963 when they shot John Kennedy. This is industrial fascism, solidifying its control of our government. We cannot reelect that man. And I hope everybody's going to realize that. But above all, accepting the truth about Trump's mental state will cause us to take more seriously than we have our democratic duty, which is to prevent a psychologically and morally unfit person from becoming president and doing what the corporations want him to do. The office is too powerful and the consequences are too dangerous to allow a person to become president who views morality only through the prism of whether an action advances his own narrow interests, his own distorted desires, his own twisted impulses. When an individual comes to believe his interests and those of the nation he leads are one and the same, it opens the door to all sorts of moral and constitutional devilry. Whether or not his disorders are diagnosable, the president's psychological flaws are all too apparent. They were alarming when he took the oath of office. They are worse now. Every day Donald Trump is president is a day of disgrace and a day of danger. And today's disgrace was the pullout in Syria that allowed the Turks to bomb the Kurds. And what he said, defending his action, was just totally disgraceful. Oh, I was going to read the Mencken quote first, because this is H.L. Mencken's nightmare. He saw this 100 years ago. Yep, it's time for a new keyboard. My spacebar sticks. And here we are, 100 years later. Come on, where's the one I'm looking for? Here it is. 100 years later, this was spoken July 20, this was written in the Baltimore Evening Sun, July 26, 1920. As democracy is perfected, the office of the president represents more and more closely the inner soul of the people. On some great and glorious day, the plain folks of the land will reach their heart's desire at last, and the White House will be occupied by a downright fool and a complete narcissistic moron. And then we have the Simpsons and their predictions. Boy, just no chit chat. I must have totally driven off the trolls. They're not getting any traction. I'm blocking them and not responding to them because that's like, don't feed the trolls and they go away. But this was one of the most disgraceful things this fuckhead has said yet. Let's find it again. I think it was right up high in my feed too. And here's HuffPost. There's 10 cities that he's stiffing out of $841,000 so far from his rallies. Oh yeah, a big ass snowstorm coming too. Right down through Montana, all the way down to Albuquerque and Oklahoma City. Huge snowstorm. They already had some up in Alberta. My friend up there was bitching about it this weekend. Okay, where'd it go? Let's find it this way. I'll probably find it faster. 2 words: Trump, Kurds. See, got it. Just that fast. Business Insider. The headline reads: Trump defends abandoning the Kurds by saying they didn't help the U.S. in World War II. Do they have the video of this shit? I mean, he said this out loud. This is pretty long. Oh, now watch. No. And Trump's decision to abandon the Kurds in Syria sends a dangerous message to allies around the world. But listen to this shit. This is just totally fucking outrageous. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it goes into detail about what's going on out there. And I'm not getting any conversation tonight, so I'm not going to go read a bunch of crap. But I do want to read. He said they didn't help us in World War II and the Second World War. They didn't help us with Normandy, said of the Kurds. And he added, with all of that being said, we like the Kurds. Oh, he's opposed to the Turkish military operation. And he didn't mention the Kurds in the statement from the White House. Now, a day goes by with this guy being an embarrassment. Yeah, basically NATO invaded Syria today. Oh, hey, you're back. I was just thinking of shutting it down. I'm bored. My jaw hurts too much to be reading. I'm kind of hungry. And the horn's going to need some work before I can like really blow it in public. I got to get it all the way up to the top and bottom, plain clean. Yeah, like I was like, we're just running out of steam when you showed back up, dude. Let's see what else is interesting going on. Oh, I wanted to. That doesn't deserve anything. Oh boy, Dolly Parton's going to be selling wigs soon. Whoopie-doo. I can't wear wigs. I just can't wear them. I mean, I might take a picture with one on now and then, but I don't know. I don't like them. It's too hot here most of the year, and it triggers my dysphoria. I have to do. I really have to ignore all input from my senses to my brain that relate to my primary and secondary sexual characteristics, and having long fake hair on my head triggers it, especially cheap wigs. I never could wear breast forms. I don't need to. Did we betray the Kurds for Trump Towers? Oh, and Annie Murdoch. Wow. Now Ann Murdoch has some rank. She's active duty Army. Works in Washington, and she's at least a captain, maybe higher. This is what treason looks like. At least those of us in the LGBTQ community so far are only faced with losing our livelihoods and don't have NATO warplanes bombing us. Every Republican who opposes impeachment owns a share of this blood. For Trump, this is a twofer. He is obediently following Putin's orders while enhancing his business interests in Turkey. And this comes from NJ.com, True Jersey. I'm not sure what that is. Donald Trump has already put his presidency on the line by acting like Tony Soprano with the leader of Ukraine. That phone call was a shakedown for a political favor with a thinly veiled threat to withhold foreign aid the small nation relies on to fend off Russian aggression. Now, following another phone call between Trump and Turkey's president, we're suddenly pulling back U.S. troops to make way for Turkey's planned invasion to clear the Kurds out of the border zone in Syria. It blindsided the Pentagon and both sides of the houses of Congress. The Kurds were our strongest ally in taking back territory from ISIS. Yet Turkish dictator Recep Tayyip Erdogan considers them terrorists. And astonishingly, Trump is now abandoning them to die. It makes you wonder what exactly was said during that phone conversation, too. Trump is an admirer of strong men, and he has a lucrative property in Istanbul, one he's acknowledged could affect his decision-making. I have a little conflict of interest because I have a major building in Istanbul, Trump told Breitbart during radio during his campaign. It's a tremendously successful job. It's called Trump Towers, 2 towers instead of 1, not the usual 1, it's 2. We withheld hundreds of millions of dollars in aid from Ukraine, potentially because Trump wanted the country to dig up some dirt on his 2020 rival. Are we now allowing Turkey to come in and massacre the Kurds because of his business interests? We don't know, and that's the point. We can't even trust our own president to put America's interests first. It's like Trump's take on Saudi Arabia. They buy apartments from me. They spend 40 million, 50 million. Am I supposed to dislike them? I like them very much. He's been hiding his tax returns and might reveal other foreign connections that influence his policies. Enough of that. I'll read the rest of it eventually. I'm just not, my jaw hurts too much to be reading and talking too much. So, and nobody's like talking back. So I don't like lecturing. I like conversation. So anyway, I'm out of here. Thanks for coming. Happy day. Bye.